Well, let's call the meeting to order. Couple of things before we start. Fellow met us this morning at, it was 8 o'clock. And he brought a box of birds back there. So they're little wooden birds that are kind of formed already. If you want one of those birds, go ahead and take one.
Or all of them.
Or all of them, yeah. Well, they're poor little starving birds. We gotta get rid of them.
Oh, black walnut.
Yeah,
But they're not finished.
but go ahead and help yourself. You want some of those? And another thing, we've got, Troy brought his, air filter in that he would like to get rid of. And maybe you could give a little bid here, $20 or whatever, if you'd like that. And we'll donate that to the treasury, but take a look at that.
It works fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just bought a bigger one and I don't need this one, so I thought someone could use one. The filters got quite a bit of life up in them. You can get new ones on Amazon. They're pretty cheap.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and take a look at that. Any new members or visitors here today?
Yeah, I got my son here,
Oh, good.
visitor,
What's his name and
that's Greg Smith.
what do you do, Greg?
Well, you mean with wood?
Are you working and how'd you get talked into coming today?
I just thought it'd be a good opportunity. I'm retired. And been working on my shop. I do a little bit of scroll work, but
Yeah,
more lathes, I think.
all right. Well, you're welcome here anytime. Your dad does real good work.
Oh, he's very impressive.
Yes, he's a legend. All right.
I'm Bob Eckert. I live up in Ham Lake. I just retired in January. I was a contractor for IT, a program project manager for a number of years. I've been woodworking, self-taught for years, and I've done some Intarsia. I'm working on an Eagle. That'll be my next one. I'm waiting for the pattern right now. I entered my first project in the state fair last year. It was a fire engine that I built off with Toys and Joys, and I actually got second place. So I was pretty excited about that. So I'm planning to do some more Intarsia and enter that in the state fair. And known about you guys for years, just never had an opportunity to make it down here. Ham Lake is almost an hour away. So dabbled out on your website a few times, and I make all sorts of stuff. And I've got a couple of grandkids that spend a weekend with me when the boys are deer hunting, opening deer, and so we go out and make some projects, and then go out to lunch, do some painting. And I'm going to have them in a couple of weeks for spring break, so we're planning on doing some more woodworking, and so that's who I am.
All right. Well, good. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Is anybody else? I think that's it. All right. If anybody has a new address, email address, or a phone number, let's let the treasurer know so they can update the roster. So if you have any changes, if you've moved or anything, get a different phone. It was Helen. We're gonna have an election today, and it looks like it might be Tom Fish, but we'll let you know. All right, name tag, Katie, do you have any name tags that nobody's picked up?
No, I didn't, they got them.
Okay, and Bob, if you need a
name tag.
name tag,
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll get one for you.
All right.
Katie can set
And
you.
then I'll get well, you have my email address.
All right, Steve, secretary's report, do you have anything to add to what we've had?
No additions or corrections.
All right, the treasurer's report, Steve.
The checking account opening balance on January 31st was $3,540.16. Deposits were $60.75 from membership fees and some petty cash that was deposited.
The expenses were $100.06. So the ending balance of the checking account, $3,500.85. And there is now $70 in cash, petty cash.
Okay, thank you. Motion to accept the treasury report,
Oh,
second. All in favor? Opposed? All right, club updates. I attended a community information meeting at Creekside on February 13th. And they had a bunch of drawings and big presentation over there at Creekside in their library. So you could talk to any of the people that were involved in helping to plan it and the people that are probably going to be working at this new center. So it looks like Creekside will close down in May or June, and probably going to be about 2 years before they'll finish it. So, and apparently the shop that was over there, they decided to sell what they could and donate the rest. So they donated a bunch of stuff to Eden Prairie Senior Center. It also has a wood shop, but apparently that's going to go away. Not sure about the rock shop and some of the other things that need dedicated space, because this new building, it's like it has a bunch of meeting rooms, but they're not going to have a boutique and some of the things that actually have a dedicated space. So it's kind of changing for the seniors. I'm kind of thinking they should be like some of the other communities around here, like Eden Prairie and Chan and whatnot, that have a separate senior center. But that's up to them, I guess. They've decided, so. And there'll be a leaders meeting on Monday, and I will attend that if Warren or Katie would like to go. It'll be the one that was supposed to have been held a month ago in February, will be Monday the 3rd at 9 o'clock. Okay, TLC toy report, Roger.
We took in 546 cars last month and 173 paintables. I've got a lot of patterns over there for the state fair. We got to start on them, and as well as 4th of July stuff. And we've had some problems with the cars. I had a half a bag of cars where the numbers are backwards. And I had another bag where they're too big. So I've got the pattern over there, so that's something we gotta watch out for. And we do have to start getting stuff for the state fair that can be cut out of Baltic birch. And they're just giveaways that we give away at the state fair.
Yep.
So it's nothing real fancy, real simple patterns to do. And if anybody has anything for the 4th of July, last year we had a hard time finding patterns. We want to keep it fairly simple that we can more or less mass produce. They'll go to senior centers and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Dennis?
Roger, where are small animals of 3/4 inch pine, where are they going? They go to TLC as well? Or they
Well, it's what we do, we give them out at the state fair, and then at the end of that, we turn it all into TLC toys. And then they do like these shoe boxes that they send out with different things in it. And they go out to kids,
Yeah.
so everything is used, so.
All right. Don Gore with the State Fair report. Carl, are we in contact with Don, or should I just read off?
he's on Zoom.
Yeah, he's on.
Can we hear him?
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. State Fair, we've paid for the ribbons. We paid for 3 ribbons again this year, and so you can look for our awardees in the Creative Activities Building when you go to the State Fair. I'm going to be emailing all the people who participated in our one day at the State Fair. Usually it's the first Monday. If somebody else would like to work in the booth, who didn't work there last year, please contact me at dongore08@comcast.net. And I can add you to the list of volunteers. I haven't started the communication yet because frankly, we haven't, heard back on what date we're gonna have at all.
Let's see.
So that's, the state fair update. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Don. If anybody didn't hear that, come up and ask me, or I can explain it a little bit more. But basically, Don's gonna make up a list for the state fair and people that worked last year. If you wanna work this year and you hadn't before, he wants you to get a hold of him. And so we can give you his email and if you wanna do that, but that's a ways off. All right, Steve, update on the woodcraft class.
So the woodcraft class is tomorrow from 10:30 to 1:30 over at Woodcraft here in Bloomington. We have 2 people signed up, so we're gonna go ahead with it, with the 2 people. And I guess Troy has a saw he may be bringing, or they do have an extra one there that we can use. I'll make a call again today, because the last time I talked to them about number of people coming, I think was Wednesday. I told them, well, if you have more, let me know. And they haven't called, so I assume we still just have 2, but I'll double check that
Okay,
today before I leave.
all right, well, good luck on that. All right. April program, Troy, do you have something lined up for April?
April, we talking about, shop dust collection,
What?
shop dust.
Dust collection. Okay,
I got some, I'm working on putting together a presentation, so it'll be good.
and anybody, if you have different ideas, we all have a little bit different ways we do dust collection.
Yeah, I'm gonna be talking just general, guy, I'm using my shop as an example, I've got some video I've shot.
Yeah, other people can chip in if they have an idea. All right, April is gonna be dues month. So, this month, no, but next month, it'd be time to collect dues for the next year. All right, let's move to the election. So we have a number of offices to fill, and the first office will be the president. So do we have any nominations for the president? Roger,
Right.
you're nominating Troy?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That was quick.
Okay. Vice president, does anybody have a nomination for that?
Or does anyone want to
Want to
volunteer?
volunteer to do that? It's mostly to back up the president and do the the programs.
I nominate Bill
Bill?
Dean. Bill Dean.
You just left.
Bill, would you accept the nomination? Sure. All
Will
right,
help.
you're not in it alone. All right. All in favor of Bill, vice president?
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, Bill. That's a surprise.
This is a group, I have to say, I've actually enjoyed being part of this group, and I'm absolutely amazed about the kindness of the people in the group, as well as the talent in the group. You know, I mean, they're incredibly talented and yet very quiet individuals that shy. You know, they would hurt fly. And that's a good group.
Very humble people.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you, Bill. Steve Harder has agreed to stay on as secretary if we'll have him. So would anybody nominate Steve to be secretary again?
I'll nominate him.
Anybody else can be nominated.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, and Helen would like to step aside as treasurer. And so I would like to nominate Tom Fish to be our new treasurer. Tom, would you agree to run? Okay. Would anybody else want to run for treasurer? All right, all in favor of Tom as treasurer?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, I'd like to congratulate all our new officers and give them a hand. think we'll be in good hands. And I'd like to thank everyone for your help and support over the last 2 years for me as president. The willingness of this club to volunteer for the events and all the things that we do is what makes this a great club. So thank you, and give everybody a hand. All right, tip of the day. Pam and Alan Fromm. I was intrigued by their method of attaching a pattern to a piece of wood that save you a lot of time and effort. And so Alan and Pam are gonna clue us in. And if you have any questions, you can come up during the break and they'll be glad to answer.
I'm Alan, she's Pam. I'm the emotional support husband here. Pam is the scroller. I think I've scrolled once, maybe twice. I have a full wood shop. She does the scrolling. I don't know how it came about this. It just happened one day and she was commenting and I said, let's use this. So I had some papers. So basically it's a full sheet label. Avery, off-brand, whatever, doesn't matter. These are Amazon cheap. 100 of them is like $20, so 20 cents a page. You can get a 500 pack for 6 cents a piece. So they're really inexpensive. And basically your wood doesn't have to be prepped or anything. It's just normal wood, 1/4 inch, hardwood, whatever. Just basically you peel it off, you stick it on. It's that easy. And you can use a roller, you can use your hand, and it's on. That's it. No glue, no packaging tape, no cleanup afterwards. Pam has told me that if you leave it on too long, let's say a week or 2 or 3, a little difficult coming off, especially after you cut. She uses denatured alcohol to moisten it and it peels right off. But yeah, it just comes right off that easy. And you can reposition it and it's stuck. Basically, a Post-it note on steroids, is what it is. So we'll pass these around. You guys can take a look. And these print on inkjet and laser. This is laser, just like normal paper. So you feed it through and you do that, and it saves a lot of time and a lot of unnecessary steps. So
Would you send out the link to me for the, on the
Yeah.
500 and,
yeah, absolutely. Yep. So we'll pass these around and check them out and see what you think. Maybe it'll work for you.
And as far as the brand, you found that it really doesn't matter.
That's off-brand. That is not Avery.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. That'd be nice to know that off-brand.
Yes, the
That
off-brand.
you're getting that
Yep.
quantity that costs it.
We looked last night. There's probably 7 or 8 brands,
Okay,
off brands. There's Avery, of course. There's 7 or 8 off brands. This is one of the off brands, and we got 100 pack.
Right.
Yeah, it worked well, and I don't think she's ever spray glued anything.
We don't know how.
Well, let's let you know what the brands are,
Yeah.
and he'll put it in the newsletter.
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, very good.
To that, I've been using that for a while.
Have you? Okay.
Just certain ones. I don't do it every time.
Right,
I
right.
use glue stick. But,
Yep.
I use spray on, but.
Yep.
When I want to make sure it stays down, it stays down.
Right.
It seemed like a really good idea.
Yeah.
I just bought Avery and I paid the.
Oh, yeah.
But I got back, I don't use spray.
You put Office Max, they have it too.
Yeah.
If you want it right now, today on your way home.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let's do show and tell then. Who would like to be first? Steve?
Well, I started my journey into bowl making, so I'm continuing on the journey. And we have, in our house, we have a lot of these teak plates because my wife grew up in Thailand. Somehow they like to do dinners on teak plates there. And so one day we had a meal and one of these fell to the floor and broke. And I said, man, that's good thick teak. I think I can do something with that broken piece of teak wood. Because the part of the edge broke off just on the edge.
Yeah.
So I decided I'd make a bowl. And teak is really a wonderful wood to work, to shape, because it's soft, so it sands easily. You know, it has a pretty nice grain to it, so it kind of is pretty decorative. And this, so this one, you have to, when you're doing a bowl, you have to know how thick it is. And you have to measure that to get to determine your angle here. And this was a little under 1/2 inch. And so you have to take that into account when you cut the slope on the, on each ring. Well, one thing I did different on this is my top ring, I did not cut the bevel on. So that leaves the bowl with a lip like that. So they're a little different. So that's a, yeah, teak bowl.
What did you finish that with if you're gonna eat off?
Well, I use, on mine, I use shellac, which they say is food safe. And I just use the shellac chips that I dissolve and thin down to the color I want. And they say that's food safe, so that's what I use. And then this is the other one I did. And this is, it's called an 8-petal bowl. So you can see the 8 petals there. It's a little, I think I cut this out when I still had my Delta saw, which was, it's a lot harder to cut with than my Pegasus saw. Anyway, so it does take, when you're doing these bowls, it probably takes more time to sand it and shape it than to actually cut it out. It takes quite a bit of time. But if you get it right, there's not a lot of sanding to do. And this one is some mahogany. It has a, on one end, you can see the end grain, and the other side looks a little different. So I thought that kind of nice. And then, as you know, I like to cut paper. So cutting paper, I made this card for this year. I send out cards to people in my family who have a birthday or some other event. So this year's the year of the squirrel in my house. I cut these, if you haven't seen this before, I take 1/8 inch plywood and put 30 pieces of paper in between there. And then I cut all 30 of those at one time. So I have a whole year's worth of cards set, ready to go. So that's what I've been busy with the last few days.
All right, thank you, Steve. Anybody else?
So, I don't know if people have gotten this, Scroll Saw Woodworking Crafts magazine last week. This is the spring edition. And of course, if you haven't seen this, it's got all the patterns are on a center group with just a big sheet of all kinds of patterns. Anyway, on the cover of this magazine was Judy Gale Roberts. They've dedicated, they said this year they're going to put one of Judy Gale Roberts. She's not known for fretwork, but she did fretwork patterns. So they're going to do that, one of these every issue this year. So I'm going to do all of those. So I went and cut that one out. Felt blue hair so here's that came out. Now, when I did this one, I want to. This is poplar. Okay, poplar, doesn't get a lot of respect, but I really like it. That's nice. And what I did is I'm still playing around with putting finishes on wood. What I did on this one is, before I even cut it, I put the finish on. Just as an experiment. Actually, what I did was I tried it out on a little piece first, and I did it on this. And it really leaves like there's no fuzzies. When you cut that, I did 2 coats of pollen. And I'll pass this around. You can kind of see how clean that cut. I didn't do any sanding on that afterwards. I did oil it. So you can just pass that around. But anyway, I really loved how it came out with just nice clean cuts, and I oiled this one as well. So that's that.
What did you do for the back or one?
Oh, and this, it's got an eighth inch piece of Baltic birch. I painted it. I went and got the paint I wanted.
Yeah.
I've got 3 grandsons out in California. And, parents have decided they're not gonna give their kids, cell phones for a while. So when they turned 10 though, the oldest boy got, a couple of years ago, turned 10, and he got an Apple Watch. Okay, so he can they can contact him and he can contact them, his parents, and so they know where he is, they can send messages, so that's how they handle it. Well, the middle boy now just turned 10, so he got an Apple Watch. Well, now here's the youngest boy, and he's 7, and so I made him an Apple Watch. This is the box. This is actually this was a Steve Good pattern a few years ago, several years ago. And I made one for, and John told me that if you don't cut these perfectly round, but this is just the box for it, okay? If you don't cut these perfectly round, then you can put it on nice and easy, and you get a little twist and it stays stuck. And you get a little twist and it comes off. So here's the watch itself, and I got the clock insert from Bearwoods, and made the little apple. Wow. I didn't pay for the logo rights, but I put it under anyway. And this is a little bit different shape here on this one, not the exact, the Apple logo.
So the other 2 boys got fancy Apple Watches.
And when this guy turns 10, he'll get one too,
Oh.
but I just thought, well, he's probably jealous his older brothers have one and he
He doesn't have
doesn't.
any.
So he gets one.
Okay.
He doesn't know about it yet. So I'm gonna be going out there this month, so we'll see.
All right. That's it. Thank you, Warren.
Yep.
Did this wolf silhouette and came out pretty well, but it's kind of hard to tell what it is until you put it up against a darker background. You know, you kind of look at it, you don't see much, but so I'm kind of thinking I need a black background to make it show. Yeah, it really shows up if you got something behind it, but just looking at it, you're going, man, it doesn't show up.
Mike, you wanna?
Oh, let's show that. There.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
have you considered black epoxy?
No. Where would I put that on the back?
Bill?
You
have to fill it.
Fill the panel.
Oh, really? Fill this up?
Fill in the cutout.
Oh,
There's all kinds of YouTube, using epoxy,
yeah,
and that's not gonna take very much.
yeah. Mix it up and fill it in.
But you also do the clay that you do on those other refrigeration, make it the smile and stuff. You can fill it up the same way with that too.
Yeah.
The other thing you could do is just go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's. You know that backing that they put on a picture for your mat, like mat board?
Mat board,
Yeah.
Just go out and buy a piece of mat board.
Cut that out.
Just
Yeah.
cut it out, put it on.
black
Yeah, you can
paper,
buy a smaller
black
piece of that
paper
for a
work.
few bucks, it's not very expensive, it's
Yeah.
easy to cut, it's kind of, I do a lot of picture printing, so it's kind of rigid, it's like a rigid cardboard.
Yeah,
So you can trace it, cut it out, and just, if you adhere it to the back, and that will give it that background. It's real thin, so it wouldn't add a lot of depth to the.
is it kind of the thickness of like file?
So I think if you want some, I got a whole bunch of black math where you can bring you something like that.
All right.
And if
Alright.
the white stuff, rattle can spray paint works on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't deform it, it doesn't wreck it, it'll make it any.
Yeah, it's real stable.
Oh, okay.
I got a whole bunch of black math. I'll bring you some.
Mat board. All right. You learn something every day.
For 2 red eyes.
All right. Anybody else now?
My sister lives out, maybe come over here in the country, and she called and asked me if I could make a couple of robin and chickadee when she wants to put on her walls, so I just finished this.
Did you
How many
like them?
hours each one?
She hasn't seen them yet.
How long did they take you to do one of those?
Well, it took me about a week. I didn't work a long time on it, but.
Turn towards the camera.
Yeah,
Turn towards
could
the
you,
camera.
could you show the camera too?
There you go.
So did you get your wife approval? So I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing, the hard part about it is. Since I got, the older I get, it's harder to handle those little pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Especially,
Yeah,
I still can do it.
oh, looks nice. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
Well-
one, here's another one.
You have another one?
I did this, I don't know if I brought it or not, but I just. Once in a while, I do a lot of Intarsia, so
Turn towards
do
the
something,
Yeah,
There
could you
go.
come up closer?
do this, break the monotony of,
There you go.
Yeah, very nice.
so.
What kind of a blade do you use?
I use spiral blades
You
on
did,
some of
okay.
it, and then I used a 2-aught blade. So,
Very nice.
Oh,
I'm continuing to dabble in Intarsia. Stuff you're gonna see here later is probably gonna put this to shame. But this is my little otter. This came from the Winfield collection. I'll bring it over here so you can see it.
Nice.
So this is Peruvian walnut, American black walnut, cherry and aspen. And I'm finding out why they don't use hardwoods for Intarsia. He's a pain in the butt to sand. I think he turned out okay. He's kind of cute. I mean, my wife likes him. That's the important thing. It took me, Intarsia is slow is what I'm finding. It's quick to cut out, but that sanding, there's a lot of time sanding and shaping and fitting, which is what I'm finding. So after I did that, I was so sick of sanding and shaping, I had to go back to front work. I did this little dragon. And I whipped this out in about 2 hours. So that felt pretty good. So.
Nice.
And this is just this is a pattern. I think this is a Dick Bowman pattern. It was in a bunch of patterns that I was given. So I think it's still available, but it's out from the art factory. Right?
Very good. Nice try.
There's a little red fox that I just finished. That'll be a Christmas present for
Oh, yeah.
some family member. There's no paint or stain on it. It's all natural woods.
What's used for the eyes there?
It's cherry and Peruvian walnut.
All right.
You bring it to the camera?
Yeah, could you bring it to the camera?
Walk right in front of the
Yeah,
camera.
get up close, get up close. Keep going, keep going.
Right there.
Good.
Right.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Very nice. Next question. Is that everybody?
Just a quick question, the guys that have been doing a lot of aspen and maple, you know, the lighter colors. Do you find, is there a finish that you find that prevents it from yellowing?
We'll be covering that in detail shortly.
Okay.
Hang on. We
Thanks.
got a lot of things to show, showing them the white.
All right. So if there isn't anybody else, then let's take a 10-minute break. Talk to Alan and Pam about the stickers and take a look at those birds. We gotta get rid of those birds.
They're really blank, they're 2D cards. They are.
Yeah.
All right.
know, there's Clinton here, and there's several people have done Intarsia, and we all do it differently. So it's up to you to sort of filter through what we tell you and take out of it what you like. It's been kind of a new interest in the group. There's been several people asking about it, and so we thought. So we did it last week. That John and his wife are here, and you'll notice if you can remember what his stuff looked like. He has a style, and our styles are a little bit different. So hopefully you can pick up what you like out of all of that. So,
Sorry.
Katie's finding the
Sorry.
thing here. Just quickly, I started Intarsia, I think in 2001. Jim Ryan got me started in it, and it's primarily what I've done, although I switched mostly now to fretwork.
It's showing yours, not
And
mine.
No, that's what the screen is.
we'll let Katie introduce herself here shortly.
Oh,
Ask questions?
no, I see.
Yeah, I'd say definitely, and we're pretty much going to go through each step and talk about it, and yeah, definitely ask questions as we go and add to it. Like I said, this is like we're all in a big group, just kind of talking about Intarsia. So, introduce yourself a little bit.
You didn't even tell him your name.
John Engler.
And I'm Katie McBride. I didn't listen to half of what you said.
We'll start over.
No, you don't have to start over. No, I've been with the club since 2011, I think. And
A newcomer.
yeah, and the first thing I did was Intarsia. I never have done fretwork. Every now and then at Christmas time, I give it a whirl, but I hate to drill a hole, cut a hole, drill a hole, cut a hole. Just anyway. So I took a class on Intarsia from one of our presidents, and as soon as I sat down at the scroll saw, I was sold, and I did make a first project in that one weekend, so it's possible. What else?
That's it. No, that's
okay,
it.
that's it.
So we're going to take it just sort of in general topics about the patterns and the wood, and just kind of following that through, applying the pattern, cutting, sanding, finishing. Been a lot of questions lately about white woods or light colored woods and finishing. We've got a bunch of different things to show there. And so we'll just kick it off. Or did you have another slide or anything?
Nope.
So patterns. You don't have to spend a lot of time on that, but I brought this is kind of the classic book of Judy Gale Roberts, Intarsia book. Problem with the nice thing about books, you get a lot of patterns. The problem is you got to expand it, right? She'll say in there 150 times or 125 times. So that can be a little bit tricky, but it's certainly. Then Kathy Wise, they're probably the two biggest pattern makers, and she's got a bunch of books. This one I grabbed, and she's really helpful if you call them. Garnet Hall's out of Canada, and he's got a whole different kind of style, but he's still around selling patterns. And he's got several books. I don't know. I've done a few of his patterns over the years and got to meet him down at Dubuque one time, and he's kind of a nice guy. But then Judy Gale Roberts sends out a catalog I don't know if it's every month, I don't know, 5-6 times a year. And all this stuff is online too. So thing nice about her patterns, they come in their red, they got the red lines, which makes it nicer to cut, but it's not mandatory, but it makes it a little bit nicer. I would add too, I found buying from her, ask about what they charge for copies. Because you buy these big patterns, you take them to wherever it is nowadays, FedEx or whatever, you might pay $6-7 for a copy. And so they'll sell copies at a reduced rate. So it's a good thing to ask, and you can make a decision at that time. Here's a picture of us in one of her, in the 2010 version. She was up here and did an Intarsia class. So, do you want to show anything on the pattern?
Yeah, the nice thing about the patterns is that they're pretty much transparent, so that you can you can see through the pattern to the figures in the grain. This is something that you can look up earlier. This is going to be my next project. So when you're starting a project, that's one of the first things that I do is I look for, well, I look for the wood, but I get to make copies of the pattern, of course, and then cut them up according to her patterns are all marked with medium light or medium or dark colors. They're also marked with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and every time you cut one out, you need to put that number on the back or you forget where it goes. And she also tells you the grain direction. Okay.
Not everybody numbers them, so that's one of the first things to do is go through and number your pattern. So
One copy
Carry that around.
so you can that.
well, they I think the rule of thumb is 6 or 7 copies it takes, depends on the pattern.
Yeah, I usually make 8.
I mean, I've done stuff with only a couple, so I can talk about that later. So yeah, because you end up, once you cut across one, you lose that, and you so.
Where do you get your specialty woods at?
Woods are next. Good,
Yeah.
Good lead-in. Thank you.
The other thing about starting a project is and I learned this from Judy Gale Roberts. She said, find as many pictures as you can of the project and keep them around your workstation so that you can keep looking at them for depth and for color and things like that.
I do want one more thing in copies. Make them all at the same time if you can. Copiers are better nowadays, but I know I've had time where I've only done a few and then did it later and they don't line up. And so if you think you need 6, do 7 and do it once. If you have to make some later, hold it up against your pattern because you know, even a 5% change is a lot, you know, and so is that in on pattern? Okay. Yeah. Wood. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is the next pattern that I'm doing, and so I brought along some of the. This is the wood that I'm choosing from. I just went through to choose them from, and you can help me choose later on today. Whoop. They'll be out there. You said, where do we get the wood? Almost all of my wood has been given to me. Yeah.
Otherwise, Rockler.
That's right,
Woodcraft,
Rockler. This Wenge over here. There was one of the sources went out of business. Do you remember? So up northeast. But this was a great big board of Wenge that I got for like $7 on a thing, and I still have some left of it. But yeah, every once in a while there's a northeast place where there's 2 places in northeast. I can't remember the name of them, but most of the time, I meet people. Sorensen went out of business. Oh, they both went out? Oh,
You can, Iverson Hardwood sells exotic. He's in St. Louis.
Discount Lumber down in Burnsville has big selection of exotics. It's not discounted a lot, but they've got what you want and they'll cut it up for you and they'll plane it and they'll put an edge on it for you. So they're not a bad sort. They're not very far from Rockler, half a mile or so. So there's a lot of ways, and you just scrounge around. People are getting rid of stuff. They're throwing away an old cabinet. Sometimes you can scrounge some wood off of it. 'Cause usually you don't need you don't need full boards usually. You just need pieces. And I guess if anybody's looking for pieces, I've got tubs and tubs of it. I'd love to get rid of some of it. So if you need small area for any kind of wood, I probably have it. So
yeah. I was going to bring my wolf, which was one of the first larger pieces that I did. That was done all from scraps. It was really good.
So wood choice, Troy mentioned earlier about hard. There are some woods that are so hard that really make it difficult. Purple heart is one. Yeah, there isn't much. A little piece here. It's very hard, burns easily, burns when you sand it. So ebony's like that. Trying to think of some others I've run across that. Wenge can do that.
Yeah, Wenge.
And wenge is kind of weird too, because I don't know, it's got like little slivers in it, and it seems like you get a little sliver from it, and yeah.
This is Wenge. When I call it Wenge, this is Wenge. It looks black to you, right? Yeah. Well, it's brown with black stripes, but the hard thing about it was putting it next to a whitewood, because the sawdust is real hard.
It's also known to be an irritant. It's actually has a chemical similar to poison ivy. I cut with it once, I'll never cut with it again because I broke out horrible.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's one to be careful of, but
yeah.
Well, all this is Wenge, the hair, the beard. I've gotten so if I sand yellow heart at all, I'm sneezing and stuff. So I don't do yellow heart anymore. So the whiter woods, that seems to be a question. The primary one I've always used, and most people I think use, is aspen. You can get it at Menards is the easiest place to get it. You just want to be careful about the glue ups. Sometimes the boards you might be 5 different boards in there, which sometimes doesn't matter, but sometimes does. So you wait till they're 11% off and buy a board or two. Sycamore works. I think I got a piece of this is holly. I mentioned holly last time. That's nice. Got a different grain to it. Sycamore. Jim Ryan used sycamore for all of his, lighter colored things. That works good. I don't know if you can find it around. It seems to be fairly. Well, that's aspen. And basswood. What else do you use? Anything?
This is aspen and this is basswood. The white mark.
Oh, maple works great. The hard maple. Yeah. Harder to cut, of course, but usually the softer maples have got a little brown to them. But so that works.
This was made like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and so the white hasn't turned that yellow. It still looks pretty white.
And pine. Sometimes pine is really white, or sapwood. Walnut. Sometimes you get a board with all white on the edge. You can use that. So. We'll talk about finishing it later, but the white usually seems to. I think this is all aspen. So,
John?
Yeah.
Where do you pick up your holly?
Tennessee. But I was down there. I was down there to Judy Gill Roberts, and she's using holly, and not too far from her place is this old school lumber yard and massive building and planers the size of this room almost. So you run a board through and you put it in. You want 1.25 inches on both sides. But he's got all that kind of wood, and I've never found it anywhere else. So I've got a few pieces of it.
He doesn't have a website, does
I don't know.
he?
I don't know. You could probably find it online. I don't think it gets big trees. I mean, I don't know. So, so I hate to bring it up because it's hard to get, but I did use it a couple of times. So, what do we have?
Basically, you look for, figured grains or the color or, yeah, mostly the grain and the color is what we're looking for.
Now, people started as almost all Western red cedar. Judy Gill Roberts is all Western red cedar. And Western red cedar is great because it's got all kinds of, this is Western red cedar, this whole thing pretty much. That coat on the old guy there, that's Western red cedar. And his pants are Western red cedar. So it does darken though. When I was down in, Judy has all her stuff she's done for 25 years, and you walk in there and it's dark. It does darken on you. And I find it harder now to find you used to be able to find the real dark Western red cedar, even the white Western red cedar, but it seems like everything now is cut for decks and they want it all to look the same. So I don't know what happens to the dark and the light stuff, but the deck stuff. So go to Menards sometime, you go through the boards and see if you can find anything unusual or get some different striping to it. But I'd beware of buying 12-inch wide because it cups on you, Same with the thin stock. We all know you keep some thin stock around. Next thing you look at it and it's cupped. But Western red cedar is still a good choice because it's cut so nice, it sands so nice, it's got a wide range of color. But like everything, it has a little bit of a downside. Whatever. Any other wood questions?
I just want to say about the poplar that I use. I was at Menards a couple weeks ago, and I found a board that just got all kinds of color in it.
Green.
Yeah.
Were they green?
It was green, it was black,
Yeah, I've got some.
and all the shades going around it,
Yeah, I don't know what they call that black poplar, but down at Discount Lumber, they sell that. It's got the black streaks in it. That one big piece I did, I used some of that. It is kind of neat, and it stays black.
I just bought it because it looks so pretty.
But the poplar, though, it does come with the green, and but like this fish, one time this is poplar, that was a lot greener than that, so it has darkened. And I don't know if I dated I kind of quit. I used to date everything, and then I was one time selling some stuff, and I looked, and I had a piece there. This is probably 2012, and I'd made it in 2002. And I thought, who's going to buy something that's 10 years old? So I started dating them more closer to the time I sold them. But yeah, I probably did that 20 years ago, and it's darkened.
So then once you've chosen your woods, are you done with woods?
Yeah, I think so.
Once you've chosen your woods, then it's how you cut and apply your patterns. And thank you for that presentation on the Avery, because that's the basic principle of this little machine here called the Creative Station. We have to cut our patterns up like this. So we're, a page of it, we could copy a page onto that, but I like this one. It's a Creative Station. You just stick this in there. You can do several at a time. I'll just do 2. Roll it through and cut it. I didn't do a very good job on that, but when you take the top off, and here you have your pattern with that sticky stuff on the back. What's nice, when you use your transparent pattern, and you have, I think I have this on here. I put, this is just a piece of scrap,
Here, give me something here. You don't have enough hands.
a scrap, what do you call this? Contact paper, scrap contact paper. So I wouldn't never normally use that, but I can put that on there. And because the scrap is on there, when I find my spot, I can take I don't have it here, just draw a circle around it with black magic marker and just put your pattern right on there. That's really helpful. Know exactly where you're putting it.
When you make copies at home, obviously, at least I don't have that kind of paper, so it ends up being regular paper. I don't bother with that. To me, you're sanding it all anyway. I just spray the paper, put it on. You got to sand it off anyway. I don't need, to me, that's all extra steps, but I could see where it's helpful, but here's one mound kind of spray.
Sort of one thing with the Avery full page and what you're talking about and the transparency. I just thought of this. You can get this in a transparent, in a clear. So you can also, I don't know what the price is, but 8.5 by 11 clear.
I tried, yeah, I tried the clear once and it just smears.
No, I mean, you can laser or inkjet print on it. And
I did.
Oh, it smeared because
And
it
it smeared.
inkjet. But I just realized that if you look at the grain, you can use a clear.
No.
It was an inkjet.
So the sprays, it used to be Duro is the only one we used. Now they quit making it. 3M has got it. Now that I go to the recycling center, they have, once in a while there'll be cans of spray there. I just take them and they all seem to work the same. But it depends if you want repositional or permanent. Even repositional gets to be permanent if you leave it on long enough. Again, in my way of thinking, I just put it on the wood and I'm going to sand it off anyway. You're sanding every surface, so.
The repositional and or not. The way I get the pattern off of clear wood, I just stick it in the microwave for 10 seconds. It's right off.
But sometimes I've used the cut out, and I'll take that, pop it all off of there, and then use that edge to cut. And now I got a match to whatever I cut to. So the repositional works better that way. Clint?
I do it a little differently. I use Winfield's steel and stick Intarsia. And it comes in a roll, a 5-foot roll or a 40-foot roll. And it's 8.5 inches wide. And I cover the back of my pattern with this. And it's a peel release. And I put it on the back of the pattern, and then I actually cut out the pattern right along the lines that I'm use individual pieces. And I stick it onto whatever wood I want. And so I'm not, and it always releases completely clear and easily, but it sticks on the wood as long as you would.
Good.
And that works for me.
Yep.
Price wise, it's probably pretty much the same as everything else.
So, yeah, so there's different ways to do it. Whatever works the best for you, and try some different ways.
That Winfield one release is now available on Amazon.
Oh, Danny?
Please put up some of that shelf liner back. And because it's plastic, it does provide some lubrication for the blade. So if you reuse the Avery stick-on, would you still put a piece of that on the back? On the underside of the board?
I do it simply because I can draw on it.
I don't,
It lubricates the blade.
So I use packing tape, I'll put packing tape on, I'll do 77 and paste it on. The reason I use the packing tape is something like cherry. If I don't put the packing tape on it, it burns. Guaranteed it'll burn.
Well, that's what this will do too.
Same thing with the contact paper. You have either contact paper, blue painter's tape, or packing tape. You do that first to give that blade a little bit of lubrication, prevent it from burning. Especially cherry will burn unless you tape.
so to answer your question, we don't know. I would guess you would not need the other, that would do enough, but the only one I worry about is cherry. The rest of them,
Yeah, cherry
I don't worry about all that extra stuff. It just extra steps, I just don't think you need it.
There also is two-sided packing tape. Two-sided,
Dean? Or
Depending on the project, I actually prefer to use all the stuff.
Bill?
And I say glue stick is compared to spray adhesive, because spray adhesive, smell hangs in the air for so long. So depending on if I'm gonna just spray it and put it and go away and not do anything else, that's one thing. If I wanna kind of keep working, I sometimes use glue stick because it's no odor per se.
glue stick works.
Right. Particularly for small pieces, it's like this spray, you make such a mess when you spray small pieces.
Set up a little box or whatever so you spray into it. It saves a lot of spray being around. I was going to say too, as we're at this wood prep stage, if you have part of your piece, it's going to be a lot thinner. It's nice to do some of that ahead of time. Trying to think of a piece. This isn't one I did 20 some years ago, but this back wing is going to be thinner than the other. You can bring that down to a 1/2 inch, saves you some sanding later. If you can pre-plan it, a lot of times I'll sit with a pattern by my chair for a week or so, kind of thinking how I'm going to cut it, what kind of wood I'm going to do. It takes a long time to finally pull the trigger, and it takes a while because it's a big deal. And as you come in and look at different things, what catches your eye? A lot of times it's the wood choice. It's not necessarily how great it was cut or anything, but that wood choice makes such a different such a difference, I should say. Where are we up to? Cutting, I guess.
Cutting, yeah.
The fun part. Troy mentioned it earlier about how long it takes to sand versus cut, and I think the rule of thumb is around 4 or 5 hours of sanding for every hour of cutting, right? Isn't that what they say? And I believe it. It does take longer, and some of us like to cut more than sand, so you end up with stacks of. I think John last week, he had hundreds of them. I remember first went to Jim's, he had 35 pheasants cut out, waiting to be sanded. I thought, man, that's a lot. He sold a lot of pieces. He sold hundreds and hundreds of pieces. So, most of us like the cutting more than the sanding. But so, you want to start on the cutting? Any?
Well, two things that Judy Gill Roberts said when I was on twice. The one, and have this discussion all the time, but the one thing she said was that most of the blades are sharper on one side than the other. And so if you keep the piece that you want, if the piece that you want to keep that on the right side of the blade, you're going to get a much cleaner and sharper cut. That was one of the.
Is that intentional?
It's true. What?
Are the blades designed to be that way?
Yes. Well, according to her.
Okay.
I don't know anything about
Aren't they
machining.
stamped?
I think so.
Blades are stamped. They're stamped. They come out of a big reel. They're stamped. Because they're stamped, the stamp pushes from one side of the die cut. You're going to have it keep power on one side.
Get a cleaner cut though. And it works. I notice it when I make the mistake and go on the wrong side.
I'd say the precision ground teeth blades, precision ground, those don't have that.
So what you're saying, you want the waist
wayside to the left.
I always cut the wayside.
Oh, man.
I don't even know which way I go.
The other cutting tip that she had is, you know, these little highlights. Oh, I didn't put one in there.
We're,
You have highlighting the eye.
yeah, I do, but I was gonna get that toward the finishing part.
Yeah, you get these little, these toothpicks. She has a whole jar of the tips cut off. So she just made a really tiny hole, stuck the tip in there, and sanded it down for the highlight on the eye.
Yeah, we'll get to that again, but yeah, if you don't highlight the eyes, it makes a big difference to put that little dot of a highlight into an eye. You know, where the pieces, I just made a couple of notes. Pieces are the same direction on the pattern. You can do a group of pieces together, and then but when you're splitting them apart, you want to use a smaller blade as you can, so you don't have all that curve. And if you're doing like a bird, you know, you do the feathers in sections. You know, otherwise you do all them in one piece. You have all those curves lined up. This last one's going to be what, 1/4 inch short. You know, so and so.
Can you explain that a little more in detail?
Well, I think in the birds, well, you could tell by the grain here, but yeah, if you have a lot, do I have another one? Well, we'll take feathers. But yeah, if you took this all out of one piece and your blade is 15 thousandths wide, which is about what they are, that's 15 thousandths times 1, 2, 3, 4. You get out to the end, you've lost, what, 1/8 of an inch?
The saw blade takes up.
The saw bit takes up. So one trick I saw Judy doing, it was a piece with be like this, with like a fence. And so she cut that all out of one piece, and then when she glued it up, she stuck little pieces of paper in between each one. So if you make all the gaps the same, you can't see it. But if you have big gap here and no gap here, your eyes can see it.
So to summarize, you're not cutting each feather individually, you're cutting one big silhouette and then cutting the feathers apart.
in chunks. Yeah, like these four. Yeah. Yeah. Because the grain on the pattern will show that this one's going this way, then they change it, you know. Same on the end here.
Do the patterns take that into account? Is that a standard practice?
Yes. Yes.
Doing groups and then cutting them?
Well, they don't tell you to do the groups, but when the arrows all go the same way and it's the same color, then it makes sense. This was a 2002. I did date this one. I think it was my first pheasant I did.
So how do you correct not so tight tip?
Careful.
Fit, yeah. A not so tight fit.
Well, you just cut it right. You don't have to worry about it. Well, I know down at Judy's class, they don't sand it. Well, you end up sanding to fit, I think, sometimes. I don't have any pieces. Do you have any pieces? I just need a couple. No, I just, the common way is you hold them together. Let's say you don't like the way this fits against this. And then take a blade, then take your saw and just saw down that gap. And you should take out the high spots, leave the low spots, and eventually it fits.
I take a thinner blade than I use to cut it with.
Yeah. We've all had that go terribly wrong at times, where you get offline and you got a mess, where you take off so much, now you create a gap over here because you end up moving this over so far. But the most part, it works pretty good. Yeah, and this one has got a gap here. I hate to point this out on you.
Well, it's in process. It's in process.
But you could start the blade, you put the blade in between it and then come out and get where it's nice and tight, so it's, you don't have to.
File. You basically filing the two pieces as you're folding them together against the blade.
The blade's taking off the high spots.
Right.
She
When
won't
you-
let me watch her when she scroll saws, so, is it a experience, knowledge, time doing it for years and years where your fingers are that close to the blade?
Your fingers are always that close to the blade. Right. When I use a thinner, when I use a thinner blade, it only hits the high spots. So if I go beyond that, that's when it starts doing what he's talking about.
Yeah, thin blades can get away on you too, you know,
Yep.
because they're thin blades and they're thicker wood and it wants to get away. So it's just a matter of, I slow it way down, just kind of,
Oh, sure.
and it usually works, but
A surgical cut versus a.
yeah, you just kind of, or then,
Well, blades are real thing. Always gonna get off.
yeah, it just made me think of something and I lost it there. But you can sand, you know, that's tricky too, trying to sand the edge to make it fit. Somebody in the club, is that sweet? It used to have a light box. So you put it on a light box, so you see the light up through it, then you could see where it's the worst. Well, that's not what I wanted. So I don't know, is there anything, is that what you were after on that fitting? My main problem, I get fast and get off 90 degrees, and that's, you do not want to do that. So I always have to watch for that, where you get, especially around your big radiuses and so forth, where that blade gets, you're perfect on top, but you're off, you know, but 10 degrees on the bottom. Then you try to fit it together, it just doesn't work. So now you have to take that off. So you just create yourself more work. So you just, the point is, take some time while you're cutting. You don't have to do quite as many.
Absolutely, like on the bowl that you, or the cover that he was talking about. The cover.
Yep.
You did one of those too, where it's
Yeah.
hard to do a circle and keep it strictly on the line. On the bowl, it's a good thing.
So we kind of got everything stashed. As I cut, I found these, you can find these old trays. It's nice to have something around the edges. Little pieces tend to want to escape. And I ran into some of these bigger trays. Looks like Katie's got one she built. Something to try to corral all those pieces, because sometimes they just disappear on you.
Yeah, it's awful. And the other thing, I use this, what it is, it's just shelving, but it's kind of a rubber feel, and I can turn it like that and the pieces aren't moving. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat. Good idea.
I've got 3 different sizes of these.
John?
Yep.
And I did not make them.
Lori had a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that it is really off, like my pen to be, and you really can't fix it very well. Sawdust and glue put in there, and actually it was.
It can work. We've all done that.
So honestly now, when you cut a piece and it's just not gonna fit, how often does that happen? Where you have to recut something?
Oh, yeah, right here. Actually, no, I didn't have to recut. I lost the little piece.
Oh.
And, no,
It happens, you know. I don't know. Not too often. Usually I can get it to fit.
Some of those pieces, no matter what you do, are just not gonna.
I've had it more, you're doing a bigger piece, you start gluing it all together and you think it all fits and all of a sudden there's a massive gap. Because as you start putting things together and permanently, now, well, we'll talk about that as you put things together, but so then you might have to cut another piece to fit. So, but every once in a while, or you lose a piece. I was just going to say, back when I first started, I had a couple of sanders next to my wife's car, And as you come out of the basement, you go around the front of the car. Well, I had set a tray on the front of her car. And she walked right by it, got in the car, down the street, and all of a sudden she comes through she was kind of mad, but there my project was strewn down the street, because about halfway down the street, up it went. Said, didn't you see that on the front of the car? I don't pay any attention, whatever. So anyway, these work really good if you can get a hold of them. So cuttings, and what's a decent gap? Somebody used to tell us about the thickness of a matchbook cover or something like that.
No, he said
A credit card. That's a lot to me. That seems like a lot, but it just depends. Sometimes the way you shape it and things, the gaps just sort of disappear. Like I mentioned, Judy Gale Roberts, she spaces the gaps so that your eyes can't see it, because it all looks the same.
I had these space gaps on this. And also, I didn't like the ears from the pattern. Drew them, sort of. And, yeah.
Was that your idea to make it integrate with the frame, or was that part?
Yes.
I like that. That was very cool.
Now, when you
It makes
did
it pop.
this, you start in the center and kind of work out generally.
When I'm placing it in.
Well, when you're fitting everything together, or you don't
Sort of
start
like
on
that.
one side.
I've done both.
Oh, okay.
Well, to go follow up on that, I know I kind of fit as I go. I don't just like a bunch of pieces and then at the end do it. So I kind of fit as I go. And I know, Jim, you always did it. You just cut pieces, throw them in a pile, and at the end, put it together and then fix it then. So it's just your style. If you're doing, again, I just like to kind of create it as I'm going.
Yeah.
So do you make the frame afterwards or before?
On which kind of thing? This? You do it before.
Before. Oh, well, that's after.
That's all after. But yeah, if you're doing a framed piece, well, you've done a lot of framed pieces. You do the frame first or after?
I usually do a temporary frame.
Okay.
To make the design, and then I take it off.
Okay. Yeah, I just made the frame first. So when you're doing a framed piece, it's a little different because it's not going to be, no one can cut it perfect that it's, if you just cut the pieces out and put it in there, that you're not going to have gaps around that frame. So you do have to do a little, I just finished this one, and this last piece I did was this sky, and it was way short, so I put a piece of paper in there, tucked it underneath the edges, drew it with a pencil, and popped it out. That was my pattern then. If you do that, then of course you want to be on the inside or the outside of the line, because your pencil is inside. So
I usually make the frame last just because I don't want to be damaging or messing up the frame while I'm.
yeah, that can happen. A lot of times I'll throw some blue tape on there or whatever to help protect the frame. But again, I kind of do it as I go, so I start at the bottom and kind of build up around the. Let's see. Any questions on the cutting, trays, feathers? Number them as you go. Sometimes, or of course you number the back, because sometimes you can't tell the front from the back, and you get it backwards, and you sand it the wrong way, and then you're recutting a piece there. So yeah, I always put the numbers on the back. Sometimes on the side. Sometimes on the darker woods, the numbers disappear on you when you go to finish them. So, any other cutting questions? That's kind of the guts of it. The better you cut, the less work you got to do later.
I'm not. That's probably because I never did fret work.
So do you always cut right on the line, or do you kind of?
I keep the line right smack in front of the blade.
Right in the middle.
Yeah, I've read that too, where somebody says, "Oh, you should always be on the outside of the line." Always, if you're that good that you could stay on the outside of a line, I don't know. You know that I just try to stay on the line. Now, some cheaper patterns you buy, you know, that line is 1/16 of an inch wide, so you can be perfectly on the line and have big gaps. So you have to watch that. But I think just staying on the line, if you can do that.
So with cutting and then getting into the sanding next, jumping ahead, you do not sand where they touch? Is that what I understand?
Well, that's what Judy Gale Roberts would say, but I do. You do.
You don't sand it unless it's really exposed.
In the contouring part.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But I mean.
Between two pieces in the middle?
Cutting and fitting, you don't, the saw curve and the teeth marks stay unless it's causing a problem.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
Sure.
Usually when you're cutting, there's no heat.
Yeah.
It's different kind of saw.
Sorry. I'm used to
like a
it.
bandsaw.
Bandsaw is different.
Do you find a certain size of blade works better?
Depends what you're cutting. I was looking through my notes, and Jim Ryan, he did everything with a number 9 precision ground. That's a big blade. That big eagle I brought in last time, where I used 1-inch walnut, I used number 9 precision ground. But normally you're at 5s, 3s. You know, it's your 3/4 wood, and it's hard. It's hard to do that with a 1 or a 3. You know, it's just hard. So whatever you're comfortable with, and you know, but I'd say probably 5's 90% of the work. And I usually cut slow. I know Troy talks about full speed ahead, but I usually got mine down to chunk to chunk to chunk because I want to stay on that line, you know. But then some woods you want to go. Some woods you got to. There's a feel, right? There's a feel to the feeding the wood into the blade, and sometimes you go faster. It just depends. You can't go too slow, I don't think, on most cases.
Quite honestly, I usually cut really fast.
Sanding and shaping, and we brought a lot of samples here too. We'll talk about, but this is the trickier part of it's the artwork part, right? It's the essentially carving what doesn't look like a horse to make it look like a horse, you know, and so this rule of thumb is to start at the lowest. I should say the hardest thing I think to learn, it was for me, I think for I won't speak for you, Katie, is to really shape the wood. The tendency is just around the edges and leave it flat. And I've seen a lot of people sell hundreds of thousands of, I don't know about thousands, but you know, at craft shows, that's what they're selling. It's fairly flat. So it's hard, and it's something we're working on for 20 years to try to shape it more. And so this is the tricky part. So when you first start, it seems like, well, this is my first piece, you know. I had to save my first piece from 2001. Yeah, it's mostly flat. A little bit. I got a little bit of curl to it. This is under Jim's guidance. This is all Western red cedar too, by the way. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to follow up on your.
So what they would tell you to do is start at the low point. Get your low set, and then bring the other stuff down to it.
That's what you said about the scale here was the lowest part. On her table, she had one of these completed plaques. So I could walk up and I would look there and I'd compare the piece with it. Going up. Nope, not yet. Nope.
It's hard to do. So on this one, I did with her, but was started here. This lower skirt is lower. Another thing she always talks about, you want, you know, as you hold it up to the light, you're getting shadows there to, you know, accentuate your different things. So that was the first thing, was to get that skirt lower. and then round it off, and then bring the other things to it, and try to get the edges down to. A quick story: when she came up here in 2010, was it? And Sweet and I were helping her put stuff up. She had a big rack of all her stuff, and we thought we were pretty good at this thing. And we're putting her things up, and we said, Sweet, this is a whole different thing. We're not even in the ballpark, because she would have that down, those edges down to just, 1/10 of an inch or something. We're leaving a 3/4 inch edge, so you just got to go after it. And normally, if you screw up and you go too deep, if it's inside, you can always build it back up with a piece of plywood or something. On the outside, it gets trickier. But so as far as shaping, you have to. Oh, we got some things. This is some of my stuff. Any kind of a motor that came with 2 grinding wheels on it. I took them off. And so the one on the left is this one. It's Judy Gale Roberts. I think Seiko might sell them too, Judy Gale Roberts. But it's a foam back, and it comes in, I don't know, 120, 150, 220. So that's that one over there.
I recently bought a grinder, and I looked a long time. They want slow speed grinder. For the rolls you do, not for the wheel. For the other one, for the rolls, it's very hard to find a slow speed grinder. However, Clean Sport sells a Ricon that doesn't come with the wheel. It's just literally the motor, 2 spindles. It's a lot less expensive than buying it with the wheels and the grinder. Or you can do variables, but if you're looking for a slow speed, Clean Sport has a Ricon with just a spindle, and it was I think it was 130 versus 200.
Yeah, this one has a variable speed. Variable speed is nice. If you get the normal motors, come in. Some of you electricians can tell me, but they're like 3,400 RPM or 1,700. I don't like the 3,400s. That's just you're going to burn yourself enough on 1,700. You don't need to do it. But you need some higher speed for that Wonder Wheel. What the Wonder Wheel does, you can dress it down to a sharp point. She's got one here. Dress it down to a sharp point and use it to make fur, or to give you the illusion of fur, I guess, like this.
That allows you to make give a texture.
That's kind of a final thing. So, you got the next picture?
I got a question here.
Yeah.
20 years ago or whatever, I bought just a motor. I was able to get some freight.
Yeah.
And it was really inexpensive.
So this is the Fordham. Robert Studio sells them. I don't know, Seiko sell them?
Yeah.
They're kind of expensive, and they've gone up in price. They used to be 100 and some, now they're 200 and some. I use it all the time. It's just my go-to. You can see I also set up with some to control some of the dust in the back. It pulls it away, and I have the dust collector in another room. But do you have? Oh, you have them right there.
So this is inflatable, uninflated, and you're able to.
Or you do this. It works.
Seiko has some flexible.
Yeah.
That fit the Fordham.
This one I used in a drill press. Probably the first 5 years is the only thing I had. So that's a good one to start with. And this with a drill press, you could do. This is the same. It's inflatable. Yeah, they come with these pumps, which are kind of tricky to use. I didn't put in the little red thing. You stick that in there, and it works really slick. You can blow up too hard. They hold the air a long time. And that softness gives you some flexibility around the edges. Yep, yeah, it was one piece at a time. Well, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, for the most part, yes. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll go through some of this equipment first, and then we'll get to that part of it. Well, that's the Grizzly one I bought, and that was at $1,700, $1,725. I don't use that as much anymore, but that's what I used for a long time. Again, those are both flexible drum. I thought I had one here, but I don't know. Oh, this one. Basically, this is flexible, and it's got a cert filling. Yeah. And this is a.
On the back of this grinder, are you using a vacuum?
Yeah, so I've got a dust collector. You can see I got the gate there open, and it's going around. There's some tubing here you can see, but yeah, I've got the big. I don't know how many horsepower it is.
This is the one that I have. I got from Staples, and this has yeah, it has the top there. The back of it is a dust collector, and it goes down into this dust collector.
You got to have some kind of collection because you are making a lot of dust. And I didn't at first, and my garage and cars were covered with dust for a long time.
Yeah, that uses this same flexible. It's not inflatable.
Just flexible, yeah.
Flexible like that, and this one of the he'll show you. Yeah, is one of this is a flutter wheel.
Flap sander.
Flat sander, yeah, and that's what's on the other side of that.
So it's nice to have a bigger diameter. I mean, to start with, you don't need all that stuff, but if you're going to take down a lot of wood, it's nice to have that bigger, that bigger piece, and with coarser. And then you should just go up in the, I don't always do it, but you want to start at 150, maybe get up to 220. But we always, at least I always do. The last bit is done by hand, getting the scratches out of there. You want to make sure there's no scratches on your piece when you're all done.
This is a Fordham Wonder Wheel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, still.
So I believe we have something similar to what you have there. Straight in the back. There and sucks it up. But I found with smaller pieces that they all of a sudden went flying. So then we put up a little, I won't say a full screen, but actually a wire thing, since it was magnetic. It just stuck to it so that when my pieces went flying, it didn't go into my
The bottom piece on this one, I had to go dig out of my dust collector.
I've had to do that too. This piece right up there, does mine to that point? That covers the holes. Whoops. Anyway, that covers the holes that you're talking about. Okay. So it does. It's magnetic.
Yeah, because it happens. Yeah, I've had it happen. You let go, especially in small pieces, and your fingers get. And all of a sudden, you hear that go bump, 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 clang, clang, clang. And so, do I cut it or am I going to sift through it? I sifted through it, found it, but how fine that dust is. It was a mess, but I found it. And I had a little screen. I was sifting through it. That's true. Back when I first started, that's all I used too. I had a, you could, most of these you could stand that up, and then I just use the end of it to shape. So whatever you have. I mean, we're showing you stuff that we've collected 20 years, but you don't need all of it. But it's just showing you what we're doing.
He has the large one. I have a small one, which I picked up from. What do you call that place that you just noticed? What do you call it? Harbor Freight. Yeah, but it's great. It's a belt sander. It works perfectly, and the disc sander works perfectly. I can carry it around. I can move it. All of my equipment is pushed into a corner in the garage, and I have to pull it out and set up my shop anytime that's why I do most of sanding in the spring. In the spring. No, I do have a.
So I did want to mention something about sanding shims. I think you're,
We're almost there.
okay, well, this one, I just wanted to show quick. If you can find a drill with a lock trigger, we're getting some feedback.
Maybe you turn your mic must be.
There we go. But anyway, Jim Ryan had showed me one of these, and I found it. See, you can lock the trigger so you can keep it spinning, so you got another sander.
Yeah.
And so, just a little clamp holding it there. So I don't use it much anymore, but it works, and it's cheap. Cheap way to. But not many drills have that lock trigger anymore.
Oh.
I don't know. Don't know why they don't do that. Okay, go next. We're getting short of time.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a flutter wheel. That one
Sanding shims. So all that means is, and I brought one here because I saved this one all the time because I made enough of these. So to do all this braids, I made a shim that you use the double stick tape. We tend to use the low, what do you call this? Indoor light traffic duct tape. Here's the box. And put all this on there. Maybe it's not all put together. And shape that all at one time. It saves a lot of work. And so then you take it off of there and then do the individual. But so if you've got a big area you're trying to shape, I think on this whole front part here, I did that all on one big piece, just trying to shape it down. Otherwise, you're taking a piece at a time. You go down a little bit, then you do all the rest the same. Then you go back through it again and again and again and again. So this saves you a lot of time. Usually, you just throw them away, but this one I kept with my pattern because I've done enough of them. I don't know if I'm doing any more because it's all yellow heart. But so that's what a sanding shim is. That if you're doing, especially on a face, I don't have anything. If you're like a bear or something, and you want all that to be, use a sanding shim, bring it all together. Then raising shim. Some of the patterns will say raise this piece 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, so you get some depth. I do it a little bit different in that if it says raise 1/4, I'll cut a piece 1/4 inch and glue it to it. So then it's all, otherwise you're always fighting with the shims on the back, and if it's not right, then, so it says raise an 1/8, I'll put an 1/8 inch piece of plywood behind it, glue it to it.
So this has 2 raising shims on it because I wanted this one lower and this one a little bigger. And I wanted to come up here, so I had more. Sometimes the pattern called for 3 of them.
Yeah.
So are you using plywood or hardboard for your shim?
Anything. Plywood usually. Any questions on that? That's
Oh, small. Okay. Way small.
to raise?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. Well, it's not the whole piece, but that section, you can do that whole section or individual pieces. I do it individual pieces.
So you can adjust them.
And I get it all together. Because sometimes I've had this happen where you got a section you forget that it's supposed to have a raising shim. You're doing all this sanding, and then now it's all, you got to start over or do some finagling. But I just think it's easier. I cut a piece that says to be 1/4 high, stick 1/4 piece of plywood behind it, cut it out and glue it. But you don't have to. Trying to think. We got to go. Now we're getting kind of down to, now we've done it. Usually you go through a project, do about 80%. Get your highs and lows, and then you go back and start doing the final sanding. you always want to, like I said, you always want to hand sand that last time, hold it up. You don't want to put your finish on, you got all these swirlies. The flap sanders come in handy to kind of polish up a little bit right at the end, maybe get your radius a little bit more. You don't want to do it so much you take away some of the detail that you put into it. But they come in little kits where you put it together. You buy an arbor, you put it together. Klingspor is the one who sells these the most. If you want one of these, this is a 150 and a 220. I ran in somebody. Some of the people do use all Dremel. We talk about using sanders, and I think Clinton, you use a Dremel, don't you? And so if you can, I've tried it, didn't like it. I ran into this one, and Hobby Lobby has a version of it too, for doing that final little pieces, doing that final fitting. Boy, that's come in handy. I just started using that a year or two ago. So, and then there's all kinds of. Swede used to make these and sell them for $5. It looks like it should be handy. I just can't.
I use them all the time.
Yeah, I just never do. And then there's what other stuff do it? Just different kinds of doing the same thing, sanding the edges.
You can get these are 3 different sizes, like 240, 320, 400 grit for finishing. Very nice.
But you get down to them last time, you're just trying to do this. This little thing works pretty good. Just do some final little sanding.
This has always come in handy for me. Yeah, 100, 150, 220, and then I get into the higher ones. Yeah.
Even some little. So I want to get to finishing. I think that's what.
How do you keep that edge on that Wonder Wheel sharp?
You got to keep dressing it. You got to keep dressing it.
Oh, how often?
Depends on the wood.
So quite often while you're
Like
doing
every 10 minutes, if used every hour, every day.
Oh, I don't know. You don't use it that much. I mean, you're just doing it to a couple of pieces.
If you did all this, you dress that a number of times.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll know. You'll know. You'll know. So some other final enhancements. Wood burning comes in handy occasionally. Carving, if you're a carver, sometimes getting these little, I got a little V-groove tool and to do some final carving. The Wonder Wheel we talked about. And then to get into finishing, but I haven't seen it around much, but they used to call it ebonizing. You ever done it, John? Or where you soak steel wool in vinegar, and after a week or so you take off the steel wool. If you put walnut in there, just for a few minutes, it turns black. So if you need something black, that's an easy way to get black. And it works on other woods too, but it's really, I don't know, it does the tannin, or I don't know the chemistry of it, but there used to be articles in the magazine about it, but we're kind of getting late. So finishing, we need to get to finishing. We're taking too much time here. I do 100% the gel varnish. Well, that's not that one. The gel varnish. I used to buy them in bigger cans, but you end up throwing a lot of it away because you don't use it all up and it gets hard on you. So, but it's basically, you got all the pieces there. You do one piece at a time, put it on. First coat, do 3 sides, and then after that, you really only have to do 1 coat. But the thing nice about it, you never have any dust or any of that because you're wiping it all off, So I just use these acid brushes, or you can use a rag.
Yeah, I picked this up just recently. Cut up little t-shirts. Because if you try to use a big rag, you use a little bit of it and then you have to throw the rag apart.
So that's the way now. John, you spray, don't you? You put it all together and spray?
Oh, I hand brush.
Oh, you hand, okay. So some people glue it all together and spray it. That's another finish if you like that, but if you have problems, you're screwed, right? Because now but so I do 2 coats for sure, 3, it seems to be enough. And then,
Between coats?
You don't have to sand between coats with this. If somebody asked about using a water base, I've never tried it, but I don't think it would work so well because it's going to raise the grain all the time on you, and you got to sand that off. Now the white woods, we wanted to make sure we talked about because it's kind of up quite a bit. For years, I did pretty much everybody did the pickling white. I was always told to do one coat, and then after that, go to the gel varnish. And that gets you, trying to think, I think this one was probably done like that. That's kind of a little yellow on there, but you notice John's last time, he had a bright white. So he must do 3 coats of this to get it that white. I've never got it in that white. Have you?
No. So the dog back here.
The Dove is, well, they're down, when I was down at this Roberts studio, they were experimenting with some UV sprays, archive sprays. And this is what they were using, and that's what I did on the Dove, and I did that in 2000, or 4 years ago, 21. And I kind of like the way it comes out. So I'll get a little closer, but I don't think it changes the color much, and that's how the white on here is sprayed too.
So in essence, that's basically natural wood.
Yes, it's a clear finish, and it's supposed to have some UV protection. The Doves, no, they're aspen. Yeah. Another, just as I've got it in my hand, different way to I didn't have it displayed like this. I just had this and this on my wall, and somebody in our group, I can't remember who it was, came in and had it mounted to a board, and I thought, that's a good idea. so I went and bought a piece of cloth and made a frame. So, but anyway, I've had some good luck with it. It's I just bought 2 cans online. It was $15 a can. Where did I sit it? So time will tell, I guess, over the years what's going to happen. But it seems to be working after 4 years. I like the look of it. There's nothing wrong with using the pickling. You know, whatever you can do to get with the look you want, I think. I'm not quite as, it's Intarsia, you can't do anything to it. Well, I don't know. It's up to you. What else do you have on that?
On the backing board.
Well, then always the question is satin or gloss. Some people like gloss, some like satin.
Robert's tip for making the backing board. She just uses the mounting spray lightly on here, and then places the piece on there so that they stay in place while you trace around, rather than cutting out. This is just plain regular. Came off of those large pads that you use. Just plain.
Just an easel pad.
Yeah.
You could use just anything to hold the pieces, because you think you've got a perfect fit until you start gluing things together, and then all of a sudden there's big gaps that you just weren't called for. So what she's doing there is beforehand is stick it all down, and then they're tracing around. The patterns normally have a dotted line. This one does not. Because there's 2 ways to do the backer, and a third way, I know Clinton doesn't use a backer, you can see how he does it up here on that one, is to have it out flush with the edge. I think all of John's stuff last time had that flush edge, or inside a 1/4 inch or so. And I tend to like the inside a little bit. I don't like to see that edge, but it's your personal choice. He actually routed the edge to match. To me, that's kind of tricky, but he did a pretty good job with it. So
there was one more Judy Gill Roberts that she did at different times when we were doing the contouring. Sometimes we put the light duty tape in between the pieces. We want to contour them together.
So backer is I just use this now. Used to use plywood, used everything. This first piece, there was a piece of our old cabinets on the back there. This works good, it's cheap. I've used it, sometimes it's not finished both sides. I've used that too and it's worked. I don't know. But this is like $10 a sheet. It's not very expensive.
That being so dense and so shiny that the glue, I'm using just wood glue. to put
Yeah,
on,
it sticks to it. That's porous enough
oh,
that.
it is.
I just use, she's got a jar of the duo glue. But you can use any glue. It's nice to have something that dries clear in case you're sloppy. But you want to make sure you don't have any glue squeeze.
Yeah, I like the tacky glue because you can prevent some of that glue. Boy, my mouth.
So quickly on the two ways to do it. Jim always had, he would edge glue all the pieces. This is the way I did it for years. You edge glue it together and trace it, and then they have your backer to fit what you have. Now there's a school of thought that edge gluing is can cause you some problems, and it can, because again, you've got all these gaps, and if you glue it all together, now it's rock in there that you can't massage the gaps. And so Judy, they have your backer, and then you start gluing down and then work around it. Putting on the back is not easy because it can be, you can think you have it perfect, and then you get to the other end and you still got backer left. Or my backer went away on me because just the way you started the alignment, it's so. So I never route, no.
I do. I think problem with routing to get a round backing board, because I don't like it sticking out. I don't like the backing board. The problem is if you cut it the same size as your piece, then the routing sometimes catches the wood. But if you cut it just a little inside, you have a small enough
Bit.
the round one, whatever you call that, 1/4 inch. Then it gives you a nice round. The other thing about when we were really Rob, Robert, she kept saying, the lower you go, the more a piece looks like it's coming from behind, like the tail on the raccoon or on the dog. On this one, I kept going deeper and deeper, and I was really scared, but I really liked the depth that I got. I mean, down there it was about really, really thin down there. So the contouring thing, that's really fun.
It's the hard part. So anyway, we're kind of running out of time here. I was just looking to see if I had any broad pieces for different reasons here, but I can't remember. Just some different woods. This was hackberry. This piece here, I remember that was different. And the horse head, there's several horse heads. People seem to like horse heads. This was a piece of cherry head, and I thought it looked like a horse head to me. So I don't know if there's any other, do you have anything to show that you wanted to show? These are kind of fun, this 3D one. We got the back end. Oh, we didn't talk about that.
I think it's called an eraser. And it mounts up on your drum, and you just pull that and turn it on. Right on.
Paper lasts a long time.
What?
Paper makes a sandpaper last a lot longer because you're not loading it up.
What I cut up just cut a little piece off, and you can just use that. And then
Well, I don't know if there's much. We're kind of out of time. If anybody has questions on any of this stuff, there's a couple in the background there too. Be glad to talk about it.
because it's so much. This is got from Judy Bill Roberts too. The mask is washable. That's what's nice about it. Oh, that one I think I put it in
plastic thing, you know.
Oh, it's a really good one, huh?
Yeah.
Any last burning questions? Otherwise, catch us afterwards here. We're past our 11:30 time and.
Well, John and Katie, thank you for all that. If you want to know anything about Intarsia, ask these guys.